Have you ever felt like the deeper you think, the more isolated you become? Like the more you understand, the less people want to listen. It's not just in your head. Society has always feared deep thinkers, not because they're wrong, but because they see what others don't want to. History proves it. From Socrates to Galileo, from Nietzsche to Tesla, brilliant minds have been ridiculed, silenced, or ignored. Not because they lacked intelligence, but because they made people uncomfortable. Arthur Schopenhauer, one of the most brutally honest philosophers, believed intelligence was not a gift, but a curse. A curse that isolates those who see the world too clearly. But why? Why does society resist those who think differently? To understand that, we must look deep into human psychology. When you stand next to someone physically strong, you might admire them. When you meet someone wealthy, you may feel envy, but not personally attacked. But when you encounter someone intellectually superior, something strange happens. Psychologists call this the mirror effect. A deep thinker doesn't just share new ideas. They reflect the limitations of those around them. And people don't forgive that easily. Even without speaking, their presence can make others feel small. Not because of arrogance, but because deep thought silently confronts the unexamined lives of others. Intelligence challenges identity. And identity is sacred. Think about it. We define ourselves by what we believe, what we know, and how we think. When someone questions those things, not even directly, but by merely existing on a deeper level, it feels personal. That's why intelligence stings more than strength or beauty. It shakes the foundation of who we are. This is why philosophers, visionaries, and critical thinkers often find themselves alone, not because they prefer solitude, but because society quietly pushes them to the edges. Confidence is rewarded more than intelligence. In group settings, charisma trumps insight. People are drawn to certainty, even if it's shallow. That's why charismatic influencers thrive, while nuanced thinkers often go unheard. History is filled with populists who told people what they wanted to hear, and deep thinkers who challenged them and paid the price. This is the paradox of intelligence. The more someone seeks truth, the more disconnected they become from the majority. Modern neuroscience supports this. When people feel intellectually outmatched, their brain's amygdala, the fear center, activates. In other words, deep thinking doesn't just intimidate. It feels dangerous. It triggers a primal response. The same one we feel when we face physical threats. Why? Because for most of human history, survival meant belonging. Tribes equaled safety. Isolation meant death. So when a highly intelligent person disrupts that harmony, not intentionally, but by seeing more clearly, the group reacts with rejection, exclusion, even hostility. A 2021 Stanford study revealed something even more telling. People feel less threatened by deep thinkers in one-on-one settings. But in group environments, their presence can spark discomfort and even subtle hostility. Why? Because in groups, status matters more than truth. People don't just compare themselves privately. They worry how others see them. If a deep thinker outshines them, they instinctively push back, not to challenge ideas, but to protect their social standing. Several well-documented biases explain this. Dunning-Kruger effect. The less people know, the more they think they know. Meanwhile, the more someone knows, the more they question themselves. Status quo bias. The brain prefers familiar ideas, even if they're flawed. Backfire effect. When confronted with facts that contradict beliefs, people double down instead of reconsidering. So when a deep thinker presents complex, uncomfortable truths, they're not met with curiosity. They're met with resistance. In the digital age, the problem has magnified. Algorithms don't reward depth. They reward dopamine. Emotional, divisive, simple content goes viral. Thoughtful ideas don't stand a chance in a world where attention spans are measured in seconds. Nuance doesn't trend. Truth doesn't go viral. That's why many intellectuals are drowned out in the noise. And why entertainment is replacing enlightenment. The resistance to intelligence isn't just social. It's biological, psychological, cultural. It's embedded in how we evolved, and reinforced by the world we've built. But that doesn't mean deep thinkers should give up. It means they need to understand what they're up against. So what's the solution? Let's return to Schopenhauer. Schopenhauer believed that the more one understands, the harder it is to connect with the world. Why? Because most of society is driven by the will to live, a blind desire for pleasure, comfort, and survival. But deep thinkers are driven by the will to truth, a relentless urge to understand, even if it leads to pain. Where most find meaning in relationships, careers, and entertainment. Deep thinkers often see these things as distractions. They seek depth, and depth is rarely found in everyday life. That's why intelligence can feel like a curse. Schopenhauer offered two main solutions. Embrace solitude. Don't fear being alone. Use that time for creation, learning, and reflection. Solitude, for the deep thinker, isn't exile, it's sanctuary. Seek the few, not the many. Don't try to fit in with everyone. Find the rare souls who value depth over distraction. Connection is possible, but only with those who value truth. So if you feel disconnected, misunderstood, or out of place, you're not broken. You're simply seeing what others don't. And while that may feel like a curse, it's also your greatest gift. Keep thinking deeply, not because the world understands you, but because the truth still matters, even when it's not applauded. If this message resonated with you, subscribe for more thought-provoking content. And remember, you're not alone in your depth.